What's up, everybody? Welcome to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Monday, February 11th, 2019. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the returning busiest lady in the business, Andrea Ramee.
What's good, Greg?
You know, being back with you, Andrea. You know, we let the kids,
it's been too long.
The inmates ran the asylum for too long. We're back. You've been gone for what, 2 full weeks? Is that right?
Yeah,
you haven't been on
so.
any Kinda Funny content?
Too long.
Exactly.
I know. I'm sorry. I was out of the country.
You went somewhere sunny. I've been gone for 1 week. I went somewhere freezing.
Very cold.
We had the hemispheres covered.
We did, indeed.
How was Australia?
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was so nice to be able to catch up with my friends down there and to see part of the country that I hadn't been to before, up by Byron Bay. Went to a wedding in Yamba, a little beach town.
Don't even know what that is, yeah.
Yeah, it was really great. And then spent a couple days in Sydney, and now I'm back.
Look at you. Globe Trotter. Very proud of it. I'll tell you what, though. Family and friends and all this, overrated. Traveling the world, overrated. How many video games did we have to miss in this window?
I know.
Apex releases, the Division 2 beta. There was another beta for Anthem I missed out on. I think you did, too. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. It's not fair. You know what I mean?
Since when did January and February become the hot months of the year?
I tell you what, it's just a pain in my rump if I ever saw one. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday on a variety of platforms, we run you through the nerdy video game news you need to know about. If you like that, be part of the show. Go over to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where bronze members are able to ask questions. Silver ones are able to get the shows ad-free. Everybody hangs out together and has a good time. If you want to be part of the show and do stuff on the show, go to twitch.tv/kindafunnygames, where you can watch us record it live. If you're watching live, you have a special job. Go to kindafunny.com/you're wrong and tell us what we screw up as we screw it up, so we can set the record straight for everybody watching later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames and listening on podcast services around the globe. Housekeeping for you. Of course, thank you to everyone who came in last week to make Kinda Funny Games Daily continue to roll. Fran Mirabella carrying the load. Belinda Garcia doing stuff. Snow Mike Mike almost dying in a blizzard trying to get here. And then Barrett Courtney filling in for Snow Mike Mike. Oh, look at Kevin giving a little clap for that Barrett boy. Good job, Kev. How'd he do?
He did great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because Lord knows I don't watch any of this shit if I'm not on it.
That's not true.
Okay. Housekeeping for you, though. I'm hosting the 22nd Annual DICE Awards Wednesday night with the Nerdist Jessica Chobot.
Woo, woo.
Thank you, everybody. Year 3 in a row. Will this be the time I finally slip up on stage, say something inappropriate, and don't get invited back?
Will you literally slip up on stage though? I could use some good physical comedy.
Yeah. Last time we did physical comedy, didn't Dan Reichert almost break my ribs? I don't know if I'm up for that. If you want to watch live, it'll be everywhere. IGN.com's got streams. They've got streams. We will, of course, here on Kinda Funny Games, be hosting it on Twitch. It all starts at 8 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday. Then
It's a late one. 8
I know,
PM.
right? Yeah. Let's get hammered. You know what I mean?
I'm ready, Greg. Let's do it.
You're ready. You were born ready for Vegas. You're going to DICE. You're going to be there.
I will be
You
there.
have your roundtable at DICE on Wednesday.
I do.
This is very exciting.
I know. I've started preparing my talking points because the roundtables there are all about discussions, which
I was
is
going to say,
exciting.
explain to somebody if they don't know, what is a roundtable at DICE?
So because DICE has such a diverse selection of attendees from across the gaming industry, from both PR, marketing, media, development, etc., the roundtables are a good opportunity to network and meet people from other sectors of the games industry and to have an open and honest discussion about some really interesting issues. And what I learned about the roundtables is that they're all completely off the record, meaning they're not live streamed. You'll never find a recording of them. And so it allows people to really connect on a real level, knowing that they can be honest with their feelings. And so we can have some really great discussions.
Okay, great. I'm excited to see what you tell me, because you are going to wear a wire and report back to me what everybody said. Just making sure I understand.
Just kidding. That's fake. False
Don't
news.
worry. No,
fake news?
Mark Cerny and Shawn Layden aren't watching this being like, oh,
They're also not going to come to my roundtable.
You don't know. Cerny might roll through. Also, don't forget the Kinda Funny World Tour is rolling on. This Sunday, we're in San Francisco at the Triple Voodoo Brewery at 3 p.m. That night, we're going to go see Nick do comedy at Cobb's Comedy. Then it's on to Kansas City March 30th and November on April 6th. You can get the full rundown of the Kinda Funny World Tour at kindafunny.com/events and see when we're coming to you. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Tom Bach, TJ Meehan, Joe Beezer, Trevor Starkey, Mohammed, and Blackjack. You guys keep the show rolling. We love you very much. And then, today we're brought to you by Hims, but I'll tell you about that later. For now, it's been too long, Kevin. Let's begin the show with what is and forever will be The Roper Report. Time for some news. 3 items on the Roper Report.
A baker's dozen.
I want to talk about this rumor, Andrea Renee, that there are major Activision layoffs inbound. We're starting at Bloomberg, where Christopher Palmeri says, basically what I just said. A painful stretch for the video game industry isn't over. Activision Blizzard Incorporated plans to announce job cuts Tuesday in the face of slowing sales, according to people familiar with the matter, bringing fresh upheaval after spotty results roiled stocks this week. The shares dropped as much as 2.5% to $42.88 on Friday. And worth pointing out, too, as you all know, ladies and gentlemen, I love a good video game journalism piece. This Bloomberg story I'm reading in full, which means I would like you to go to Bloomberg, click on it, give them a like, a share, whatever. The layoffs, which could number in the hundreds, are part of a restructuring aimed at centralizing functions and boosting profit, said one of the people who asked not to be identified because the changes haven't been announced. Activision employed 9,800 people at the end of 2017. I'm inserting a piece from Jason Schreier over at Kotaku right here. People who work or have worked at Blizzard told me that they expect Tuesday's layoffs to be primarily in non-game development departments, such as publishing, marketing, and sales. Some of those jobs and roles may then fall to Activision proper, further reducing Blizzard's autonomy. Back to the story at Bloomberg. The game maker, one of the largest in the world, acknowledged on a November conference call that some key titles, such as Overwatch and Hearthstone, were seeing flat or declining number of users. After disappointing sales of Destiny 2 Forsaken, the company parted ways with its developer Bungie Incorporated, a move that could reduce annual revenue by as much as $400 million. Analysts accept Activision sales. I'm screwing up. I'm tired. Analysts
do you need assistance? I can tell you.
I got it. I'm just dumb. Analysts expect Activision sales to decline by about 2% this year, or $7.28 billion. The company, which has bulked up over the years through acquisitions, including PC game maker Blizzard Entertainment and mobile game company King Digital, has historically given its various divisions considerable autonomy under longtime Chief Executive Officer Bobby Kotick. Over the past year, a number of executives left, including Eric Hirshberg, CEO of Activision Publishing, and Mike Morhaime, the longtime head of Blizzard. On New Year's Eve, Activision said it was firing Chief Financial Officer Spencer Newman shortly before he took the same position at Netflix Inc. Tom Kilpin, a toy industry veteran recruited to lead Activision's consumer products division 2 years ago, retired this month. Activision isn't alone in stumbling. Electronic Arts shares fell 13% Wednesday after the company confessed that some of its biggest releases disappointed, but it rebounded later in the week. Take-Two Interactive Software Incorporated fell by a similar amount Wednesday after forecasting sales this quarter that were $100 million below Wall Street forecasts. The results were a reminder that video games are still a hit-driven business, rising and falling based on unpredictable consumers. Lots to digest there. Obviously, this was an ongoing story on Games Daily last week as this all continued to pop. Where do you sit with it all, Andrea? What's happening?
It's interesting to break down exactly what the numbers mean in the context of the larger scope of where the health of the industry is at. I had some discussions with people on Twitter about this after the news of this layoff broke.
Sure.
And people were like, oh, where's the games industry at? Is it in decline?
And this was one of the things that 3 weeks ago, we had a Pactor story where Pactor was predicting that, hey, like there's going to be a big decline that we might see for the first time in X number of years, kindoffunny.com/you're sales for video games decline, which would be not unheard of, but hey, this is something to pay attention to.
Well, after the gargantuan year that was 2018, it's going to be difficult to climb from there, right? I think, when you have a leader like Fortnite really pushing the overall revenue to its peak levels, growing, what the story that we did from the NPD numbers when we called Matt on the phone, like what was that, an 18% growth over 2017? It only makes sense that it's got to fall sometime, right?
Ebb and flow, right?
But I think that the important thing to remember here is even though we are seeing a dip right now, we're not seeing like a catastrophic fall.
You're not seeing a crash.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And then the other thing, now granted, we're calling out the numbers because, financials are starting to roll over, fiscal years are ending. So that's why you're talking about Activision, Take-Two, EA, right? Blizzard, part of Activision. But also it's the idea that, and this is what we talk about all the time on smaller scale thing, is what is your metric for success? What did you anticipate this doing, right? Take-Two Interactive, right, fell by a similar amount Wednesday after forecasting for its sales quarter that were $100 million below, right? That is, look at the success of GTA 5. Okay, extrapolate that to Red Dead 2. Include what's going to happen with NBA, right? Like, this is not exact science. Like, you're in there, you're predicting, and you're going, and you see here where, I think the market got super bullish on Take-Two and Rockstar as a brand that it can do no wrong. Now, granted, I'm not saying they did wrong with Red Dead, but it obviously didn't perform the way they wanted it to in the long term.
Clearly. I think it's also interesting to note that these companies all had really big hits over the last couple of years, but it still wasn't enough. And I think it comes back to how do the financial officers at each of these individual companies make these forecasts? Like, at what point do they go, maybe we've over forecasted? I think back to probably like 3 or 4 years ago, it was when Square Enix over forecasted one of their titles. It was either Thief or Rise of the Tomb Raider. I can't remember which one it was, but it did really well by most standards.
It was Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Right?
Yeah.
It did like anywhere from like 3 to 5 million units. And then the Square still came back and was like,
totally thought it
wasn't enough.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
we were like, how is that not enough? That's amazing. I think it's all relative in that speak, right? And so a company like Take-Two Interactive falling 100 million below the forecast is crazy because that's a giant amount of money. But in Take-Two's overall valuation, it still is what feels almost like a drop in the bucket for them.
Of course. Now, with the rumors of these layoffs happening, right, at Activision Blizzard, the question I then have for you is, do you, as a Destiny player, does this give you more context and more light into trying to get away from Bungie? They talk about, this, hey, they're trying to focus on their core, right? That was the idea.
Well, I think maybe what happened was, and we discussed this when Bungie originally announced that they were separating from Activision, was that they probably saw the writing on the wall and they said, hey, we know that there's a dip, that there's layoffs coming like 3 to 6 months down the line. How about you let us take our destiny into our own hands? And we'll make sure to look after our people. We'll be financially responsible for them. This is the kind of move we would have hoped Telltale would have done.
Sure.
With some of the other studios they were working with ahead of the layoffs, right? Instead, they botched that.
How do we protect our people?
Right, so they botched that completely, and instead, clearly, Activision and Bungie had a adult conversation, and where Activision's like, "Hey, we can't afford to keep all of these people on your team,
Sure.
So we're either going to have to cut your team, or you have to leave." And you get to take financial responsibility for those people. Then it's on your shoulders if you cut them or keep them in the fold.
Sure.
So I think something like that is clearly at play here. But it's not just Activision's individual studios. Blizzard is dragging down the overall monetization too, which is kind of wild to think, because when you think of Blizzard titles,
Sure.
you just assume that they're all successful. But
Right.
we saw with what happened with Heroes of the Storm last year that obviously they're struggling too. Maybe if they just released Diablo 4 already.
Oh, the mobile game will solve it. But no, but I mean, even still, that's the thing. Game Maker, one of the largest in the world, acknowledged on a November conference call that some key titles, such as Overwatch and Hearthstone, were seeing flat or declining numbers of users, right? Like, Overwatch is still so ginormous. I was, wandering around Canada, and I obviously at an EB Games, I'm going to see Overwatch stuff. But to go into Toys R Us, which still exists there oddly, and go through and see all the Overwatch toys and merch that are out there, that like, oh man, this is something that's crossed over in such a huge way. But still, in terms of the actual game, right, flat or declining, that's crazy.
I think it comes back to what I said at the top of this segment, which means it's all relative. Like, what does flat numbers mean for a behemoth like Overwatch? I mean, I think about Hearthstone and how popular that was like 3 years ago.
Sure.
There's only going to lose popularity over time. Trying to maintain any game's popularity over a 5 to 10 year period is a really challenging task.
And that's the thing I would love to know is when we're talking about Overwatch in particular, it's either flat or declining. Like, what is the decline like for them? What are they? Because obviously, Overwatch, a game that I know people still play religiously, right? Andy's still into it. Lucy's still into it. But what does that look like as you do see things like Apex come out, as you do see the continued success of Fortnite, as people do love the return of Division or Destiny 2 the way it is? What does that mean with Anthem and Division 2? We talk about ebbs and flows and cycles and coming back and forth to things, but it has been interesting. And now here's where I'm going out on a real big limb. So stick with me, everybody. And you're free to kindoffunny.com/wrongme all day about it. I feel like with Destiny, with Division 1 even, with these games as service, I heard bigger pops of, here's the big new thing coming to that game and why people should surge back into it. Whereas with Overwatch, don't get me wrong, I know they've introduced new characters and stuff, but I never saw the same, hey, it's our Wolf's Den or whatever. I'm trying to reach for Destiny. One of those. Here's our Destiny Forsaken. Here's our giant update that needs to get you in. There's events, I know. There's new characters, I know, but I wonder if that plays into the mix as well.
I'm sure it does. There's a lot of people like myself that would really love to see Overwatch expand its gameplay horizons to do, a really robust new mode, or maybe even add a campaign, because they've got such a well-built lore around that game, and the community is so strong that they are ripe to really monetize it even more if they just add more content. But, obviously we talk about all the time, game development isn't easy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we don't know how their engine is set up or how easy it is for that team to pivot to that, or if that team is now maybe potentially working on something new, like an Overwatch 2, if that's even like something that's in the cards for them. It's there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle of what's happening with Activision.
I think it's going to be interesting to see it evolve and see how this changes and see what happens on Tuesday and what these layoffs do look like, if they're going to happen. Again, it's a rumor. Maybe it doesn't.
I mean, large companies go through cyclical layoffs all the time. Even companies like Microsoft, who have a global footprint, will do customary layoffs, every 6 to 12 months just to kind of clean up their books a little bit. It sucks. Being part of a layoff is shitty.
Of course.
And, hopefully not too many people will be affected. And if they are, that there'll be lots of #game jobs
Activision
out there.
jobs, Blizzard jobs,
for them to maybe find a new home at.
Yeah, I think it's important. I still think, from my pundency, to video games aren't in some free fall, like you're saying. It's not a crash. It's not a thing. I think it's companies overextending and overpredicting. I think you look at PlayStation and you see the success they saw with Spider-Man, right? Like the best-selling PlayStation exclusive in forever or whatever. I think those are the stories, right? The independent game scene continuing to crush. What's happening with the Switch and the way that's selling, even though, again, Nintendo too bullish on how many units they were going to move.
Well, Activision was, at the top of the food chain for a very long time. I mean, Call of Duty was the #1 game and continues to be a top seller and has been for several years. It was going to come to an end at some point.
I think, honestly, if you want to go back further enough in the timeline, you can go back to, 2008, 9, when Activision said, we're going to pass on this Ghostbusters IP we picked up because it's not annualizable. And then Atari got it, and we saw how that worked out for them. And that's the big problem here with where Activision went wrong. Why didn't you keep more Ghostbusters games coming, Activision?
There was just a couple quick "you're wrong" about
him
that
in
story.
Here. Yeah. Lord of Pwn tosses one out here. Greg mispronounced Morhami's name as well. I'm saying it wrong again on purpose.
Like Morheim,
Morheim, like mime. And then when reading the article, this is from Brando. When reading the article about Activision, you said Tom Kilpin. His name is actually Tim Kilpin. Thank you very much. That's what we're all about with You're Wrong. Number 2 on the Roper Report. Shawn Layden's talking a little bit about E3. Over at CNET, Ian Sherr has a giant interview with Shawn Layden, of course, the head over there, PlayStation, and a whole bunch of interesting little tidbits in it, but I thought, in particular, him talking about E3 was interesting. Ian says, you're not the first big company to bow out of the big E3 video game show in June, but I'm curious why you chose this year to drop out. Shawn responds, when we decided to take video games out of CES back in 1995 during the PlayStation 1 era, E3 served two constituencies, nice word, retailers and journalists. Retailers would come in. You'd see a guy come in and he'd say, I'm from Sears and I handle Hot Wheels, Barbie, VHS, and video games. So what are you about? There was this huge educational component. Then you had journalists who had magazines and lead time and jockeying for position on the cover. And there was no internet to speak of. So a trade show at that time of year for the nascent industry was exactly what we needed to do. That's how you can tell he's smarter than me. He's just dropping words and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Sony used to be one of the biggest fixtures at the annual E3 video game show each June. Now, we have an event in February called Destination PlayStation, where we bring all the retailers and third-party partners to come hear the story for the year. They're making purchasing decisions in February. June now is just too late to have a Christmas holiday discussion with retailers. Interestingly, he says now we have an event. Destination PlayStation
it's been
forever.
around for a long time.
Forever.
But if he's talking about pulling out out of CES in 1995, I guess.
Good point. Yeah, okay. So retail has already dropped off. And journalists now, with the internet and the fact that 24/7 there is game news, it's lost its impact around that. So the trade show became a trade show without a lot of trade activity. The world has changed, but E3 hasn't necessarily changed with it. And our decision to do fewer games, bigger games, over longer periods of time, we got to the point where June of 2019 was not a time for us to have a new thing to say. And we feel like if we ring the bell and people show up here in force, people have expectation. Oh, they're going to tell us something. We are progressing the conversation about how do we transform E3 to be more relevant. Can E3 transition more into a fan festival of gaming where we don't gather there to drop the new bomb? Can't it just be a celebration of games and have panels where we bring game developers closer to fans? Then
like PAX.
Ian chimes back in, almost like Comic-Con. He goes, yes, that's probably the trajectory it needs to go to maintain relevance. Lots of bombs in there, Andrea. How do you feel?
I mean, my gut reaction is this is a bad take, Shawn. I think he brings up a very valid point, which we didn't talk about when PlayStation announced that they were withdrawing from E3, was Destination PlayStation. And the reason why we don't talk about it is because they don't invite people like us there.
It's retailer focused.
Yes.
And it's that thing, I think, honestly, for the most part, what goes on there is pretty quiet. Though I always think about the Destination PlayStation that really shook the PlayStation world, right? Because I'm old, was when they announced they were doubling back down on the PSP. That is where they were like, hey, guess what? We have a MotorStorm coming, a Little Big Planet coming, an Assassin's Creed coming, and everybody's like, what the fuck, really? Like, I thought this thing was dead. That was like the biggest Destination PlayStation news I recall. Now, granted, I'm talking about from my career covering PlayStation, and that being, hey, this platform's dead. All of a sudden, there's all this stuff.
Well, everything that happens at DPS is behind closed doors. They're all private marketing meetings where they're talking, like Shawn said here, about holiday retail discussions about which games they want to focus on, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when those retail discussions happen.
Yeah.
But I think the relevancy of E3 is that it allows the teams to have those retail discussions and to also have the media beats at the same time. So they're not having to have two separate shows.
Sure.
And so they can bring the builds and the teams and all of the developers to the same place. And then on one day, do your business meetings. And on the next day, do your press meetings. And that was always the benefit of E3 for studios. And it's interesting that he instead would like to break it out and keep Destination PlayStation its siloed marketing retail discussions, and then they're clearly going to do something else for press. Or maybe what they're saying is we don't need to do one big press event anymore. Maybe we don't ever see the return of PlayStation experience.
And that's the craziest part. This is what he's pitching. Why can't it just be panels? And I'm like, that's PlayStation. That's PSX. Just go to PSX.
Exactly. I mean, there's just so many other places that already exist for those fan and panel experiences, that community of gamers coming together to celebrate games, that maybe what they're saying is PlayStation doesn't need to spend the money to put on something at E3 anymore when they can instead have a presence at PAX or have a presence at Comic-Con.
Right.
You know?
I mean, and that'll be interesting to see if they double that. Because, like, you know, for a while, PlayStation dropped out of Comic-Con. And then they came back and they'll do, like, an offsite here or there. But, like, how are they in this new world of not doing an E3 and not having beats going to, or not having that one big beat of E3 in June, right? How are they going to grapple with that, change that, make it the way they want it? And I think right now you're actually seeing an interesting way, right? Of like, rather than hold the information for E3, for a big event, why not trickle it out and give games moments? Right now, the big moment going around the internet, right, are these wedding invitations that got sent out for Days Gone. I don't know if you've seen these. It's inviting press and influencers over to go see the Sarah and Deacon wedding. And what it's advertising is that on February 13th, there's going to be something happening with Days Gone, right? Like there's a whole website to go to and all these different things. And you can go there and expect new news. By the way, Kevin, whenever somebody gets here with the key, can they check the mailbox and see if we got one? Thank you. But that's an interesting way to do it, right? Of like, all right, cool. Now Days Gone is getting a beat. And now that they're sending, like, I just went to, Sony Ben's Twitter while we're doing this. The first tweet they have up there is a retweet from Dornbush, who's got the photos of his invitation on the thing. And then underneath that is the PlayStation retweet of, hey, here's what's happening on, 2 p.m. GMT, February 13th. You can go see his new stuff about what's going on with Days Gone.
I think that kind of marketing is very interesting.
Don't wave. Don't encourage them. Now you're bringing. God.
Oh, they want to come and say hi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have two interns in the office today.
We have some special guests, everybody.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Thank you.
If you are listening to the show, Mr. Nolan North and Troy Baker have just crashed the studio.
We could do. So sorry, guys. We'll be with you in just a minute.
You guys doing a little show here?
Oh, that's
It's a
cute.
show.
Are
Yeah.
these
It's live,
low?
you know.
These are plugged in.
Yeah, they are.
Live.
So anyway, the chairs I would change.
So wait, is retro replay buying kind of funny, or is kind of funny buying retro replay?
We're not at liberty to discuss that for. Do you have the app that can measure the distance? Because that's what we need. Now, what would it look
I think
like
it's
with another good host?
All right. We'll
Listen,
see you guys later.
You can trash Greg all you want, but I take pride in my work.
You see my gaze of
Another good host. There's one that implies one of us is a good
How would
host.
I look with pretty hair like gorgeous? I
Not
think
as-
Oh, yeah.
First off, you have pretty hair. All right, period. Let's not get away from ourselves.
You
all right?
both have really nice hair.
Good to see you. Good to
are
see
you
you.
guys?
That's so good
no,
to
that's
see you
fine. No,
guys.
we'll see you. Of course, we have a retro replay invasion today. They're doing all sorts of stuff. They're doing a debatable.
Don't hit your head on the lights
I don't know
there.
if I'm saying whatever else they're
And
doing.
this,
Yeah.
found this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My favorite new cup. I don't know if you get a shot of that.
They can see it.
He is holding the
It's
Christopher
the
Walken
old
mug.
Christopher Walken, Nick Scurvy. Now they're harassing
Here's the great
Kevin.
thing. If you take one sip out of it,
Wow. That's a hot cup of joe, right?
Tasty. It's like I knew what I was doing when I invited the gremlins in.
Yeah.
It's just what else are they going to get up to
warned me
today?
in
What else
advance,
are they?
And
Yeah,
it was
of
just as
course.
glorious as I envisioned it would be.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
But to put a pin in this conversation,
Sure.
I just want to bring it back to the thing that I said when PlayStation originally announced that they were withdrawing from E3. And that's that I think that it's a mistake to do these smaller PR beats throughout the year
Yeah.
because the rising tide lifts all boats of E3 is still so gargantuan, and like the overall mind share of people talking about video game news during E3
Sure.
cannot be understated.
Now here's my thing is
I mean, cannot be overstated.
I still stand by this could be it's a crazy bold move and I'm excited to see how it plays out. And I think it could either be super successful, it could not be successful. We got mail, or is it
Is that the invite?
just junk mail? That kind of looks like junk mail.
I don't know. It says Greg Miller, care of Kind of Funny.
All right,
See on the back it says Omaha Steaks.
we didn't get Did we get the wedding? No, we got an Omaha Steaks mailer. All right, good enough.
I mean, now I want
I'm
burgers.
interested to see how it plays out either way, if it's good or bad
Yeah.
or how it works. But what's the most interesting thing, right, is that Shawn's having this honest conversation of like he thinks PlayStation thinks E3 needs to change, right? And we're literally coming off a story where it is, hey, these other three major publishers fell short of their fiscal goals, right? And is that, and I'm not saying this is the solution,
Right.
but is it that they're not being forward thinking enough? They're not being bold enough? They're not seeing the changes that are coming in the industry and they need to do stuff? I don't know. But I think it's an interesting way to then have the next story be like, no, here's why we're marching to our own drum.
I mean, it certainly is a gut punch to the ESA to say that they're not maintaining relevancy when
Sure.
they've had really strong attendance numbers. Like, it feels like he's intentionally trying to pick a fight with the ESA. Like, I don't know what's happening
I
there.
hear you. I agree. It'll be interesting how it all plays out. I have a
Yes.
question, though, about
Yes.
E3 for you, Andrew, and me, I guess. Kevin, if you want to chime in, you're welcome to. Over at patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, Ramy wrote in with a question and says, Happy Monday, Greg and Andrea. With the E3 gamer badges going on sale tomorrow, I was wondering what you think about E3 being a good networking opportunity for smaller content creators. Are people too busy to mingle, or is there some value there for the average Joe who doesn't have an industry badge and probably won't be invited to the exclusive press parties either? Thanks for keeping me informed and making my commutes more enjoyable each day. my tape got hot there.
I absolutely think that there is a lot of worthwhile opportunities to do some networking and to, more importantly, build your resume, build your reel or your writing portfolio by attending E3 with a gamer pass.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to get the same access as press, clearly, but what you can do is pick a couple games that you think that you could really speak to or write about and go and preview those games so that you can then start to build your portfolio of work, because you and I get this question all the time. How do I do what you do? It's one of the most common questions that we get. And the thing I always echo to people is you have to just start working. And going to E3 is a fantastic way. My very first job in the video games business was going to E3 for the first time. And that experience has led me to where I'm at today in my career. And I went without like any knowledge of writing games in the past. I had done a ton of video work and video production work, but I'd never specifically done a video about video games or the video games business. And so for that alone, and to be able to say I reported from E3, even if you're buying your own pass in, is invaluable. And the conversations that you'll have with people while you're waiting in line, while you're getting dinner, whether you're out getting drinks or whether you're just in your hotel lobby bar, like those kinds of opportunities, you'll never know what you missed if you don't go. And the amount of times that I've just randomly run into somebody and exchanged business cards over something where I wasn't even supposed to be there necessarily, like a line I was in or like getting coffee or what have you. Is what I'm saying is you never know. And if this is something you truly want to do and you have passion for it and you want to be part of the video games business, then yes, you absolutely should go to E3.
It's a great response. Yeah, I feel my initial read on it, I think you got the right idea, especially with that ender, right? If you want to be part of this industry, you need to be there. That's true, and probably the end of it. My thing was like, what kind of networking do you want to do? That's it for me. Like, I think it's harder, not impossible as you've just said, right? But harder to be like, at E3, I want to meet up with Per Schneider and have a conversation about my work and show. And it's like, that's where it's like, well, at E3, everybody's running around nonstop and their days are packed. At an after party, or even, as you said, a hotel bar, that's usually where most of the business gets done in the video game industry. You can run into somebody, give them a card, and hopefully bend their ear for a second. But it is that, what do you want out of it? Agreed. Yes. I think I always say, like, if you want to do what we do, you have to be, at this point, specialized. Everyone does everything, and that's why it's hard to be like, hey, we're our own site, we're small and independent, and we cover everything. Well, there's already an IGN, there's already a GameSpot,
and you can't cover everything. It's impossible now.
So like what you said, yeah, a gamer pass, you're not going to get to jump lines, right? So you need to be committed to, I am the zombie guy, right? So I'm going to go there and see whatever. I was going to say Days Gone, but no, I'm not going to be there.
It'll be out by then.
It'll be out there too. Last of Us, not going to be there, right? Like, you need to have that idea set though of like, I do
MMORPGs, or I only do RTS games, or I only cover esports.
So I'm going to go
whatever
to E3.
Your beat is.
And like, as you've seen with kind of funny videos, right? Like, our E3 YouTube content outperforms all of our normal gaming content because people are hyped for E3 and do want to devour information. So yes, if you are the MMORPG guy or girl, go there and get it done and make that clip and have that thing. But I also don't think it's, if you're looking to network more in terms of like, man, I want to meet other people on my level. I want to meet other small content creators. I want to meet other small publishers and developers and stuff like that. That's where I think PAX come in and play such an important role. Because PAX is, everyone there wants to network. You go to Indie Mega Booth and you talk to them and then you do something with their game. They're so excited for a press beat to have some kind of clip to show off that, hey, somebody likes our game or do whatever. That's
if you only have it in your budget to go to one show in 2019, PAX West is the show to go to, I would say, or PAX East if you're on the East Coast, because those shows are about the same size. Now, I believe PAX East is actually technically bigger as far as attendance goes.
Gotcha.
But we generally see a few more games with more to play at PAX West just because it's right ahead of the holiday season. So good luck to you in your search, and just keep going. Be passionate.
Keep on trucking, as they say, right, Kev?
Yeah.
They still say that? All right, great.
Yeah, they do.
Final story of the day, number 3, comes from GameSpot, where Jordan Ramee says Activision is offering Guitar Hero Live refunds. Activision has announced that it is offering a refund for any customers who purchased Guitar Hero Live after December 2017. You only qualify for a refund if you bought Guitar Hero Live in the US. There hasn't been a specific statement regarding why Activision is offering the refund, just a blog post detailing how you can secure one. To qualify for the refund, you must have purchased Guitar Hero Live between December 1st, 2017 and January 1st, 2019. Activision will need confirmation of the purchase, such as a receipt or credit card statement as well. If you fit these qualifications, then submit a claim form before May 1st and you will be refunded your money. You can still submit the form if you have no confirmation of purchase, but then your refund isn't guaranteed. Releasing in October 2015, Guitar Hero Live introduced a new mode to the music game franchise called Guitar Hero TV. In this mode, you'd play songs from the first-person perspective of the band's lead guitarist. Hitting your notes perfectly would earn you cheers from the crowd, while messing up one or too many of them would cause them to boo you off the stage. It's also the majority of Guitar Hero Live. The base game features 23 songs, while Guitar Hero Live TV includes over 200. Guitar Hero TV includes over 200. That all changed on December 1st, 2018. Perhaps, not so coincidentally, a year after the cutoff date for Activision's refund, when Guitar Hero TV servers shut down, removing almost every single song from the game. Yikes. I didn't realize when they shut it down, they took out that many stories.
It was a big thing when that story came out, and it's really frustrating to see what happened to one of my all-time favorite video game franchises and what they did to it. I was really excited when they said they were bringing back, and then when they said that they were redoing the guitar, I was like,
now it's got black and white frets.
Why?
Yeah.
I was like, that guitar was so difficult to learn the first time. Like, I can't imagine spending the time to relearn a new
and
input
that was my
system.
thing. It was a cool idea, and we got it. And I went home and I tinkered with it a few nights, and I was like, this is cool, but I just did not have it in me to get new muscle memory for doing the
and I appreciated from a musical standpoint where they were going with it and what they were trying to accomplish and how they were like, we need to bring a fresh take to it. I go, yeah, but what is the like Venn diagram overlap of like mass Guitar Hero fans and gamers who never play the Guitar Hero?
Yeah.
You know, that's really going to be excited about this new fret system. Like, turns out it was real small.
Yeah, yeah.
So disappointing, but glad to see that they're giving people some refunds. But I would rather just have the songs on the disc.
Sure, of course, but you can't, Andrea.
No, you can't. You can't play it anymore.
And it is a hey, good on you, Activision, for doing this. I guess before the class action lawsuit got filed by somebody who wanted all your money.
I don't want to give them too much credit.
Yeah,
for this.
it's just like you ripped it apart, right?
Yeah, this isn't like they're just. This isn't like when Epic Games released all of Paragon's assets when they shut the game down.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, okay. Andrea.
Yes.
I'm excited to see how many people get refunds for Guitar Hero Live, but I won't know for forever. If I wanted something more immediate, like say what came to the mom and grab shops, where would I go?
Why, Greg, you would go to the official list of upcoming software across each and every platform as listed by the Kinda Funny Games Daily show hosts each and every weekday.
Yeah. Good to have you back, Kev.
Thanks, man.
Out today, Arcade Spirits on PC, Hyper Jam on Xbox One, Hacky Zack on PlayStation 4, The Liar Princess and the Blind Prince on PlayStation 4 and Switch. Damn, that's fucking rough. Trials Rising on Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and PC, and then Astroneer on Xbox One and PC. New dates for you. Total War 3 Kingdoms is now coming out on May 23rd, 2019. And then Hollow Knight's DLC is getting a first look on Valentine's Day, February 14th. This is from Team Cherry's Twitter, so I assume keep your eyes peeled over there. Deals of the day for you. Eric Myers wrote in on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, today is the last day to grab the Assassin's Creed Odyssey Season Pass, which also includes Assassin's Creed 3 and Liberations Remastered for $25. Even if you were only interested in the remasters for some reason, that's $15 less. That's a screaming deal.
It is a great deal.
Good job, Eric. Tell me more screaming deals. Sure. Also worth pointing out, of course, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is, in fact, this month's video game club on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. If you give $1 or more, you will get that show, and it'll never leave Patreon. It's exclusive there. If you're a bronze member, of course, you can contribute to it. I just need to put up posts about it, which I saw someone remind me about on Reddit, and I'll get on it. One more deal of the day for you. This is from Gilly Brums. Gilly says, deal of the day. Hey, Greg and Andrea. Just wanted to let the best friends know the PlayStation Classic is currently 50% off on Amazon for $51.
Oh, you mean the price it should have been when it launched?
Ooh, Andrea just going for the knees today. Shawn Layden crying, listening in his car to this one.
He's not listening to this show.
You never know. It's time for reader mail. Remember, you can write into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames to be on the show and get the show ad-free, whether it's an MP3 or video. But speaking of ads, this episode of Kinda Funny Games Daily is brought to you by Hims. 66% of men lose their hair by the age 35. And the thing is, once you start to notice, it's too late. It's easier to keep what you have than worry about the hair you've lost. That's why you should be like Nick Scarpino and Andy Cortez and go to forhims.com, a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness, and more for men. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. These are well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. No snake oil pills or gas station counter supplements. These are prescription solutions backed by science. No waiting room, no awkward in-person doctor visits. Save hours by going to forhims.com. Just like Andy and Nick did, they went online, talked to a doctor, and sent in some photos. They got matched with the prescriptions to help fight their thinning hair. Order now. My listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today, right now, while supplies last. See the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to a doctor or pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/gamesdaily. That's forhims.com/gamesdaily. Andrea?
Yes, Craig.
We're starting with my dog, Nick, 96 from Massachusetts. What's good, Greg and Andrea? Is anything good, Andrea?
Yes. DICE is coming up, Greg.
Nice.
Going to Vegas in a few hours.
Boom, 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 boom. With the XFL kicking off in 2020, what do you think the likelihood we will see an XFL game by 2K or another publisher in the next 2 years? I say 2K, since they already work with the WWE and the XFL is the same owner. I'd love to hear your thoughts on if we'll ever see an XFL video game in any form. As always, thanks for the amazing content. My dog, Nick, 96.
Has there been an XFL game?
Thank you for asking, Andrea Renee. Of course, I'm Greg Miller, number one super fan of the XFL Chicago Enforcers. Went to 3 out of 5 Enforcers home games back in the day when the XFL was kicking there. Me and my friends went down there. We had no idea what we were doing. Drank my first illegal beer in a Soldier Field there. I shouldn't say that. That was the first time I drank underage in Soldier Field. I had many illegal beers before then.
Yes.
Saw a fight there. It was awesome. Saw a guy rip another dude's earring out of his ear in the middle of the fight. Let me tell you, the XFL is awesome, guys. All right? Yeah, that's where you fucking went. Cheap tickets. It was great. There was never a released XFL game. There was one in the works. Sadly, when your thing only lasts one season, hard to get the merchandising really rolling.
I can imagine.
And so that's the interesting thing about it. XFL 2020 is, all right, cool. It's super weird. Everybody should watch the 30 for 30 on the XFL. It's fascinating. And then at the end, there's like an Easter egg where this is before they announced it, obviously. Vince starts talking about if he would do it again, what he would do. It's like, oh my God, are you seriously? This one I think is going to be around longer than the original XFL because it is Vince McMahon.
Hopefully.
He owns everything. He's learned from his mistakes. He's got this thing unlocked. It doesn't seem like they're going the in-your-face attitude era football like they did with the original XFL, which turned a lot of people off. I don't think it'll be in 2 years, my dog Nick 96, that you're going to get a game. If it sticks around and it finds an audience, yeah, I think you'll get a game. Yeah, I think 2K is a good fit for it. I do think that, like, obviously, when they, that's where people want to see people always love the NFL 2K games, right? First person mode, all that jazz. I'm sure they would love another crack at that. But again, I think it's got to be, is this going to work? Is this going to be a big thing? And then they'll go from there. Andrew, you're a big football fan. Are you excited for the XFL?
I can't say that I'm waiting with bated breath.
Okay, fair.
But I mean, I'll check it out. I think that we're in such a different era of game making when it comes to
licenses.
Yeah, where we're at today versus when the XFL first came onto the scene.
Yeah.
And so I don't doubt that somebody will make something. I don't know if 2K is necessarily the right fit, even though they clearly have that relationship with the WWE, because I think back when, the XFL originally came out, middleware was such a bigger share of the market than it is today.
Yeah.
And there's just so many more opportunities for smaller devs to maybe take a chance on something like that. But as you mentioned, McMahon is exactly, a pauper. So he's got lots of money to spend and likes to spend his money.
And that would be the thing is, I think it...
So while 2K, it clearly has the bandwidth to make a game like that, I don't know if it will meet the profitability expectations of Take-Two Interactive, kind of calling back to what we talked about at the top of the show.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like it's a super risky thing for 2K to take on and it'd be less risky for a much smaller studio to take on.
Sure.
But I don't know if that's the kind of pomp and circumstance that would appease McMahon.
How much does Vince McMahon, especially because I think he's even more involved with XFL right now than he is with WWE. And I'm speaking a little bit out of my ass there, but I mean, he's like, he owns everything in the XFL, right? And like, at least he's got fucking Hunter and Stephanie working on the WWE with him.
I would hope they would wait and see how the league does for the first couple of years before they jump to making a
Just put a team back in Chicago or in San Francisco. That's it. You know what I mean? Give me something.
You just want to go to games.
Of course. Come on. I want to see another fight. That's great. Final question is a big one. Why not? Pete writes in. It says, Happy Monday, hosts. Do you think the Division 2 will have any political themes or other controversial topics as part of its narrative? It seems crazy that the game might not when you think about the location, but I remember being pretty disappointed at how little Far Cry 5 had to say about its own controversial subject matter when it came out last year. Also, what are your opinions on the matter? Should the Division 2 try to make political statements or play it safe and tone down the political rhetoric? Before we even get into that, I want to give you more context. This is from Heather Alexandra over at Kotaku, who had a whole article of like, they say the Division 2 isn't going to be political. It's going to be political. But I digress. Here's the quote I wanted to pull from it. The Division 2, with its setting of a broken Washington, D.C. and mission of saving America, arrives during a similarly charged political climate. We're talking, of course, before about Far Cry 5. Speaking to Kotaku editor-in-chief Stephen Totello yesterday, Terry Spear, one of the game's creative directors at Red Storm Entertainment, denied any intentional political commentary on the game's part. Quote, I think it's important to remember that it's a Clancy game, and Clancy is always predicated on clear and present danger, Spire said. Not the specific book, but just that premise. Once you're past that and step into the fiction of, okay, now what are we pretending? Yeah, I said that right. Green poison is what we are pretending. So the goal isn't to make a political statement. It's not to reflect on any of the things that are happening in the current world, in the live world. It's truly, you are here to rebuild, end quote. Speaking with Charlie Hall of Polygon, Spire reiterated the game's absence of political ambitions. Quote, it's not a political statement, he said. No, we are absolutely here to explore a new city.
So, is that like the shortest question ever? Or
for me,
so it's like, no, it's not. They're not going to make a political statement then.
Right. But I don't know. The problem when you talk political statements and politics in this way is, are we talking about big P politics or little p politics? And what are we talking? I don't expect, and I definitely think that's where Spire's coming from, that I'm going to be running around and it all went to hell when Trump or Obama or Clinton, like that's when it all started. This thing. No, we're dealing with the repercussions of the dollar flu. I, in a way, stick with me, don't even think it makes sense to have political statements about what's happening in our world right now, considering this world now exists in an alternate timeline that split off 4 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, they're dealing with their own shit. I do think there's going to be reflections in the different groups you're dealing with in terms of like the whole deal here, right, is like you're the division, you're trying to take back America from this weird sectioned up group they have. It's kind of like Gotham City No Man's Land, right? Where I do think we're going to run into people who are, hey, there's this group over here that believes their way is right and that they, you know, I don't know, their race is right. And they won't be that on the nose about it, right? But like, it's our way or the highway, and we're going to kill everybody else who gets in our fucking way. And there's going to be these people over here who are, I forget some of the names they're already using for the things. I think, not True Sons, but like... Oh,
the factions?
Yeah, there's like something like, not True Sons, but like Founding Fathers business. Like, there's clearly these factions that are going to have... This faction believes in this thing, and this faction believes in that thing, and there'll be ways to play off and run around and do all of that. But yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see how much, if they lean into it, but I would expect them, I don't think you're going to run into a group that is like, we are the white supremacist group, and we believe that America has been reborn, it needs to just be white people. I think, again, like that would be... not what they want to do with this game, not the statement they want to make.
Too polarizing. Yeah. Ubisoft is a global company. At the beginning of each of their games, they have a statement about their staff being multicultural, of many different faiths, of many different beliefs, religions, genders, etc.
Yeah.
And they clearly want to make sure that if they're going to make a statement in a game, that it can accurately reflect the policies and the beliefs of the studio at large. And so because of that, they don't tend to make statements, right? They want to make sure that the game is approachable to people from all different countries around the world, because their goal at the end of the day is to make a piece of art that will sell lots of copies. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So while we have obviously acknowledged that this game is going to be set in Washington, D.C., and there are specific missions around the United States government, like stealing back the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, which will be really nice for Americans as a callback. I mean, there's still going to be people from all over the world that are going to play the Division 2 that probably don't care about American politics at all.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't make sense for them to specifically reference something that's happening here in the United States.
Yeah.
When, there's people in the UK.
And I think even still, like, to why not Pete's thing, or like he was disappointed how little Far Cry 5 touched on certain things, right? I think this is, again, a step even removed from that.
Exactly.
Where Far Cry 5, yeah, okay, we live up in Montana, we don't trust anybody, and the government's going to fail, and we're going to, make a new America. It's like, okay, well, that is a little more in line. Where, again, I think this is such a different timeline at this point that it's more like Walking Dead. Like, I don't expect The Walking Dead to, at this point on the show, deal with the political issues here. Like, I do think you're going to go to the government and you're running around DC. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, I hope, jokes and nods to like, oh man, corrupt government, right? How we can never trust politicians to begin with, which has been, as long as I've been alive, how people have felt about the United States government, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's more in line with what you're going to get, rather than it be a, hey, we're going to talk about MAGA or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, no, like that's not what this game is, or the universe it exists in.
100%. And I want to be clear to everybody watching and listening. I have no problem with politics being in games. I don't subscribe to the school of thought that, stick to video games, don't talk about politics. I think politics are part of everybody's life, and you should have a vested interest in what's happening in the politics of your region, wherever that may be. But I agree that it just doesn't fit here, and there's no need to shoehorn something in just for the sake of having it in.
Now, what I want to do is call out one thing. The nanobiologist, and you're wrong, shouts this out. The factions in Division 2 are True Sons, I was right, a group of paramilitary military warlords, hyenas, a loosely organized gang of opportunistic raiders that prey on struggling civilian encampments through violence and intimidation, outcasts, bitter survivors of a forced quarantine bent on revenge against those who brutally imprisoned them, and then Black Tusks, a secretive private military organization that operates on an unknown agenda.
So like Blackwater.
Exactly. And see, you say you jumped to that right away, and I think
Yeah.
that's also something interesting from Heather's piece on Kotaku. Her final thing is like, you know, basically games are art, and so we're all going to come with our own lenses and project things onto these. I think another thing Ubisoft's doing is, sure, none of those groups are like, well, any race power. They're very much like, this is what they are, and then you're going to play that game, and they're your enemies, obviously, so you're going to project, I think, more of those thoughts, stereotypes, whatever, ideas onto them to flesh them out in your head. If that
Totally.
makes sense. But that's like how they want it to be. That's how they want art to be. I still can't wait for the Division 2. Kevin, can you wait for the Division 2?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
God damn it, Kevin.
Kevin, you're excited. Don't lie.
Yeah, but I'm not like, I can't wait.
I can't. I'm all bubbly about it. It's time to squad up. This is where one of you writes in to patreon.com/kindafunnygames. I read your username here. You talk about the platform you need help on. Everybody comes and plays games with you, and y'all have a good time. Today, Arvel Kryned, long time Kinda Funny best friend, needs help on the PlayStation Network. The PSN name is Arvel. Derarvel. Arvel says, "Hi, Greg and Andrea. Over the weekend, I played more than 12 hours of the Division 2 beta. Though the entire game felt like fun to me overall, there were some areas that felt pretty frustrating. I played most of the time alone, and for some reason, the final boss stages I had to do over a dozen tries until I finally finished. At one point, I tried doing the matchmaking functionality, and it took me a half an hour until I got help to finish the side mission. Therefore, I'd like to ask the best friends, Kinda Funny best friends, to squad up with me for the Division 2 once it hits stores in March, or for a proper training in the Division 1 in the next couple of weeks. Keep up the great work. Arvel." I can swear to you, everybody, Arvel's a great dude. Hit him up. Arvel, PSN, Derarvel. Andrew?
Yes.
It's time to find out what we got wrong. We ask people watching live on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames to go to kindafunny.com/you're wrong and keep us honest on things we screw up as we screw them up. We already talked about everything I screwed up in that first article. Nanobiologist has a couple in here. A missed new release date. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, The Lost Tales of Greece DLC. A Brother's Seduction will be released tomorrow for free to all Assassin's Creed owners. Interesting. Didn't see that.
The Trials Rising one is a clarification.
Yeah.
It's the beta that is happening. You were correct. Greg is wrong. That yes, the actual release date for the game is not until February 26th, but the beta is
Good
happening.
call. There you go. Oh, okay. Well, this is interesting. DH Canada says, after the XFL reboot was revealed, Vince stated that he would have a more hands-off approach. In an interview with CBS, he said, quote, "Quite frankly, this might be the last you see of me in terms of being out front," McMahon said. "I won't tend to be out in front. We are going to hire people who really know what they are doing, experienced executives who will be out in front. It won't be me." Quote. In terms of the WWE roles, he said, quote, "It won't affect that at all. Yes, my role will remain the same. I'll continue to be the CEO and chairman of the board in WWE." Oh, interesting. Thank you very much. And then he tries to get me wrong of saying that there's no, all the teams have been revealed. There's no SF or Chicago team. I'm aware. That's why I'm saying I want an SF or Chicago team. Yeah. Bring back the fucking enforcers. Where are the enforcers? And Zaire says there was a new date for Alchemic Dungeons DX. It's coming out on Switch on February 14th. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Kinda Funny Games Daily. Thank you so much for coming back and joining us. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, patreon.com/kindafunnygames. You can ask questions there. You can get the show ad-free. You can talk to other friends and be part of every other show we do that's game-related and all that other jazz. You can watch it live, twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. You can watch it later, youtube.com/kindafunnygames. You can listen on podcast services around the globe, no matter where you get the show. Thank you so much for supporting us in our dream. Hosts for the week go like this. Tuesday, it's me and Tim. Then I fly off to Dice. Wednesday, it's Tim and someone. Thursday, it's Tim and someone. And then Friday, I'm back to do it with Tim. I tell you what, Fran, just beating down the door on the emails. I landed at SFO. I opened my emails last night at 9 o'clock. He's like, is the schedule still good? I'm like, you're not even on the schedule, Fran. Why are you so worried? You can't even do either of those days. And that's when I was like, oh, fuck, I need somebody for Wednesday and Thursday. So, Barrett, start brushing up on game news. You never know, buddy.
I was on last week.
I know.
Put me in, coach.
I'm gonna try to give Snowbike Mike another shot.
Yeah.
But God knows he's going to get flooded out this time. You know what I mean? Coward. Snowbike Mike is a coward.
No, he's not. He's a great person.
Shut up, Andrea. Andrea, I'll see you at Dice, all right? Hold down Vegas tonight for me.
Okay, I will.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.